I never thought I'm going to say this, but there's similarities between the tech companies in the Bay Area and the federal government. What are those? They're both trying to do mass layoffs. So when we're looking at this company right here in the Bay Area, he's doing mass layoffs. 8 to 10% of their whole company, they're being cut. And when I'm looking at federal layoffs, there have been a bunch of people that actually taken at least 20,000 federal workers have taken Trump's buyout because you rather get some certainty and be like, you know what, I'm going to take this one rather than being cut, right? And so this isn't even the big news. So what is even crazier is that nearly 30,000 federal workers in Kansas City brace for layoffs. So when I'm looking at all these things and I'm looking at all these people that have been let go from these agencies, I wonder what were they doing? Because people ask me comments like this that are saying, "Do I think that it's a good idea to trim some fat off the federal government?" And the question is yes and no, right? It's never that clear to me who they're laying off and what have these people been doing. So if you're critical and you show up to work and you actually contribute in a positive way, no, I do not think that you should be let go. But now I don't know if what you were doing is actually contributing to the great of society. Because I know Bob, and Bob is obviously a made up name, but let's call this person Bob. And this person works for a government agency. And this dude just never shows up to work. People can't find him. He's out doing who knows what. And he's like, my job is really easy. I just kind of, sometimes I show up, sometimes I don't, and I just do what I want because they can't technically not fire me. And I've never seen that person actually do more than just show up. And I don't even know what he actually does for work. He says he's an auditor or something. And he says, yeah, I'll just show up when they want me to, and then I kind of leave. And I can do pretty much what I want. And so I show up to the office to badge in, and then I just leave. So coffee badging, right? And so do I think it's fair that the taxpayer pays for that? Probably not, right? But when you're a career in government, you got to think about it like that. If you're a career in government, you take less money, but you get the stability of a government paycheck, you're like, I'm not going for these high raises, these fast-paced environments, but I want stability. And there's a lot of people in the government that do good work that are going to be let go because there's casualties, right? There's going to be people that just are going to be cut, wrongfully cut, and that should have not been cut. But when you're trying to do these mass layoffs, and you're like, you know what, we're just going to cut all these people, then there's going to be like damage. Those are going to be like big casualties that shouldn't have happened, where it's like, oh shit, we actually needed this person, but now they're gone. And so, yeah. And now I'm asking you, do you think that that is likely? Do you think that that has any merit? Let me know in the comments below, or let me just hear your opinion. And if you haven't, please like and subscribe. And I do videos like this all the time. And so now people ask me all the time, like, how do you know all these types of things? So me and Ali run a community like this on school where we help job seekers find new jobs. So if you are job seekers and need help, you can join it. It's free. The link is below, right? So I talk to people all day, every day. And I get anywhere from I need help, super aware, don't know what they're doing wrong because they're not getting interviews, they can't land a job, or they can't just don't gain any tractions, and they're open to feedback and change. That's why they come to us, to people that are super stubborn that say, oh, there's nothing wrong. It's like, how long have you been job searching? A year and a half. And you don't think there's nothing wrong? No, but I'm going to be homeless in 2 weeks if I can't find something. And so what's your solution? Well, I was hoping you're going to tell me that. And then I always say, don't you think it should have been, you should have came to us earlier and going to spend, some time, invest and do something rather than just not do any of it? And when I'm talking to all kinds of people across the board, I've talked to directors, I talked to interns, I talked to everybody across the board. And one commonality is awareness. And I feel like a lot of you guys have awareness, and some of you guys just absolutely not. And that is okay, because if you're super skilled, you're like a super numbers person, and you can do all kinds of crazy stuff in your head with numbers. You might lack some awareness skills, but then when it is 5 before midnight, don't come knocking and say, "Hey, can you help me out? And by the way, I don't have any cash and I don't have any money, but I need your help." And I used to always take these people on, right? I said, "Yeah, you know what? I'll help you, just because I'm a nice guy." But then a few times that it happened, that these people that we scheduled meetings on, I said, "You know what? I'm going to make an exception," because they were crying, they were doing all this other stuff, and grown people, mind you, right? And I said, "You know what? I'm going to help you." And then I say, "Okay, I'll help you. Let's set up a meeting." And then they don't show up to the meeting. They don't respect my time. So then I said, "You know what? I can't do that anymore." So there goes that, right? There goes that. And so when you're not aware, and then be like, "Oh my gosh, I missed a meeting, I did that," and then try not even to apologize and be like, "You're not aware." And if you do that to interviewees, and if you miss the interview or you do anything else like that, you gotta change that, right? You gotta be aware, you gotta do that. And so when all these 30,000 people are gonna be let go, they're gonna flood the private sector, or they're trying to get another government gig. And when you're talking about, "Oh my gosh, let's all become entrepreneurs and do all that," I'm telling you, becoming an entrepreneur is it's like riding this crazy roller coaster. You have the biggest highs and the lowest lows. And it's almost like, I can almost say, like when you're on drugs, because when you're doing great, you're making sales, you're making money, you feel amazing. But then when you're not closing people, and you're just like, "Oh my gosh, my team," you have expenses. Because when you're an entrepreneur and you're like, "You know what, I'm going to start my own business," you have insurance, you have employees, you have software that you pay for, you have all these things that are ongoing costs that are just going to get built, and you're, regardless of how great it's going, they're just going to keep coming and coming and coming. So if you can't budget and you can't do it, it might not be the best thing for you to become an entrepreneur. And for me personally, when I became an entrepreneur, I know my biggest thing is I'm impatient, right? My thing is that I gotten, feedback from my team, and I know that about myself, is that I get impatient. For me, it's not that I'm like, "I can't do it," or "I can't do this or can't do that." I'm always like, "Let's get things now. Let's do this now." And I feel like I got the American syndrome now, where I don't want to wait for stuff. I just want to throw more money at it. So for me, it's not like that we're gonna run out of something, or I can't get this off the ground. For me personally, so it's like, let's just throw more money at the problem, trying to make it happen faster. And that makes my team nervous. That creates all kinds of problems. So I have to work on myself, right? As you have to work on yourself to be more aware of being more just better, right? Just doing of small improvements. And when I say that, I always say that like, "Hey, you got to work on it." And then people say, "Oh, I'm good." It's like, no, if you want to do this, you gotta make some improvements to yourself. Because if I can't, and I don't hold interviews all the time, right? I have interviews. I used to have interviews all the time, where I interviewed people for jobs at my team. Now I can outsource that, and I'm not doing it now. My team does the interviews, but I used to have interviews all the time, and I used to tell in about 4 or 5 minutes if this is going to be a good match or if this is not going to be a good match. Because when you're walking into these interviews, "Oh, if this is going to be a good match," it needs to be a good cultural match, right? And most of the times, the technical skills are there because all these people have been doing these technical stuff their whole life, right? So what you're looking for is a cultural match, a personality type match, because you don't want to have your team collide with that new person that you've hired, because of their, the personalities don't match. Because if you have a dysfunctional team, your whole organization's going to be in trouble. So you always want to make sure that your personality type matches, and your skill is diverse enough so everybody has different skills in your team, to make sure that, hey, we got all the basics covered. And so this is one piece of advice. If you're going to be one of these 30,000 people that are going to be let go, make sure that you're starting now. And this is why I always say to all the people, it's never bad to network. And people have this bad word like networking. They say it's such a bad word. And people get frightened and trying to push themselves to do it. And I can tell when you're in these conference rooms that people have this idea, let's go network, and then they get the jitters, then they do all kinds of like, then they're like, I can't do it and all this, but then they're trying to force themselves to do it, and you can feel that. So what do you do? So what if you're trying to go to these events and you're an introvert? Because I see that all the time. So when you're an introvert and you're trying to network, you start off with just small gestures. Hey, how's it going? And you can start doing that in the grocery store, right? You can ask your cash register person, hey, how's it going? Or your mailman, hey, how's it going today? And then seeing how all this kind of relates into. And one person I truly, truly love on YouTube, on all kinds of social media, is Chris Voss. He was a hostage negotiator, and he basically does all these, he gives you all these life hacks of how to talk to people and how to do all that. And so, yeah, if you're in a situation where you're like, oh my gosh, what do? You can always look at Chris Voss on YouTube and see, hey, and watch these short form videos of how he basically gives you like bite-sized chunk that you can apply in your life to actually make it better. And if you're like truly, truly amazed by it, you can read his book, Never Split the Difference. I actually read it, and it's a phenomenal book of how you use mirror labeling to keep conversations going and have people interact with you and do all kinds of stuff. So absolutely a must if you're in the networking realm or if you're thinking about getting laid off. Because I'm telling you, if you are one of these people that are like not active, not doing nothing, and all of a sudden you're getting laid off and you're starting to see the post, hey, by the way, I'm looking for new opportunities. It's like, holy smokes, you've never been active and all this other stuff, and now you're coming. Because I had somebody that I wanted to reach out to for some ideas like years ago. And I reached out to him on LinkedIn. I don't even know if he saw it, but 2 years ago or something, I reached out, and then it's like, hey, how's it going? I got laid off. Do you want to do a coffee chat? But when I was like, hey, just trying to connect, do something, you were like, no, you didn't even read my message. And now I see that you got laid off. And now all of a sudden it's like, hey, how's it going? Let's have a coffee chat and chat if you have any opportunities for me. I'm like, where were you a year ago where I was just want to have a conversation? I wasn't even trying to sell you something. I was just like, hey, how's it going? What are you up to? How can I support you? Let's see if you connect on LinkedIn, do something. But you didn't even do that until you got laid off. And once you got laid off, then you're like, oh shit, let me dust off all these messages and see if I can reconcile and do all that. And then I always say, it's too late. And a lot of you guys, it's almost like human nature. We don't see it till the clock is 5 before midnight. And then we run around like headless little chicken and see, oh shit, I just wasted 6 months doing stupid stuff, drinking, having fun with my friends while I should have been job searching. And now let me see where I can get some free resources, some free tools at it. And nothing's working, and you send out frantically 200 applications, nothing's working. And then you're like, oh my gosh, what am I gonna do now? So what do? You gotta hire somebody. Because at the end of the day, you don't job search that much. You job search every few years. And so it's well worth to spend a few $100s in some coaching, interview prep, or something else. Doesn't even have to be from me. Just find somebody that's in your niche that you trust, that delivers a good product, and do that. Don't spend $200 on the resume review. It's not worth it. I got the template for you. It is for free in the school community that you can get. You just got to be a little active and do an intro post, and we'll send you that. But besides that, it's not worth it. But what is worth it is getting to network with people, getting to chat, getting to be a leader in your industry. And I had this amazing conversation with somebody that was from a whole other country, and they said, oh, LinkedIn isn't heavily used in my country yet. And so I said, you have an amazing opportunity to actually be a voice from your country and be a leader in the LinkedIn space before everybody catches on. And he said, oh, LinkedIn's been around, but people aren't really using it. And I said, yet. They're not using it yet. It will come. It's like if I told you you can become a TikTok influencer 3-4 years ago. If I would have told you that and you're like, you just got to upload a few videos every week and you'll become huge and you can make pretty decent money and you can do all these doors open, so you'll probably do it, right? So if it's not big in your industry or whatever it is, stop making excuses, because we all do it. I do it, you do it. It's just who we are as human beings. We make up these excuses and trying to justify laziness, trying to justify, oh, my job's not gonna be let go. I'm a federal employee. This never happened to me. Then it does happen to you, and you're like, oh shit. And so if you're one of these persons, just let me know in the comments below, because I know for a fact that there's a lot of people out there, and we're just not aware enough that, like, oh my gosh, this could happen to me. No. We're not like that. We're not wired like that. We always think, oh, it's gonna be somebody else. We're almost like these zebras that go into the river and there's a bunch of crocodiles and we're like, haha, it's just gonna be Jimmy. It's not gonna be me. And then it is gonna be you. So don't be like Jimmy and be like, yeah, maybe we should find an alternative route. But yeah, let me know what you guys think about all this. And yeah, like I said, I'm not the federal government. So don't be mad at me for don't shoot the messenger. And if you haven't, please like and subscribe. Like 80% of you guys that watch my video on a regular are not subscribed. So yeah, let me know what you think about all this. Is it crazy? What are all these people gonna do? And yeah, our house price is gonna go up, down with all this stuff. I have no idea. I'm still here in Vegas though, and it's a gorgeous day. And yeah, let me know what you guys think. And I'm here for the conversation. I'll see ya in the next one.